So after finally getting around to getting a new compressor, I managed to pick this one up on TradeMe, just a New Zealand online listing site. Second hand, paid $700 for it. It's actually got the same size compressor as my last one on it. Motor is the same size, different brand. It's got a slightly larger tank on it, but it should do the job pretty well for what I need here, pretty much just in testing. And we'll do a little bit of vapor blasting work. I've actually run this one in parallel with the other compressor. I'll show a comparison of the two in a minute, but for now I just got that comes out here, comes in through a pair of these one-way check valves and some taps, and then it just goes into a whole bunch of old LPG cylinders that are a little bit too rusty to pass compliance. They're still good, but just with the paint flaking off and the rust there, they wouldn't test them, they wouldn't fill them, so they're no good as gas bottles anymore, but they work fine for auxiliary air pressure in here. So you can see the other line heading out there, that goes to the other compressor. So I've got it all set up, and I modified the nozzle a little bit in there just to deal with a little bit higher airflow. I thought to test it out. Got this water pump here. It wasn't actually that old when it was put on the motor. I can't remember what happened to the motor. Something happened to it, but motor died, and the pump should still be pretty good, but it looks crusty, so no one wants to put it on. Whether or not it goes back on now, I don't know, but I thought I'd throw it in, see what sort of condition we can bring it up to, just to give you an idea on what sort of quality we can get out of this cabinet with the slightly higher airflow. So this is the compressor we had been using. It's a 50 litre tank, I believe, 3 horsepower, and I'm pretty sure they're twin pistons, these things. Not quite up to the task. This one's had a hard life, as you can see. A couple of years back it actually got flooded. The whole underside of the house was flooded out, and this went under. Actually, when we found it, was upside down. So the tank was obviously buoyant enough to flip the whole thing over, and then as the tide went out, so to speak, it was left sitting on its top. So yep, that one's had a hard life. I've just gone and picked this one up the other day. It's actually the same model of compressor unit. Motor's different, but it's another 3 horsepower one, and the tank's slightly larger. So as far as volume goes, I don't think it's going to produce higher CFM, but together with both of them running through to an extended air supply, should flow enough to do what I need it to. So as you can see, with a higher airflow, it tends to mist up a lot quicker in there. So you see it's coming down now. That fan is working, but it just can't quite keep up with the amount of mist that's being created on the inside. Wiper seems to be doing its job. Doesn't seem to be too much coming back up off the top there, but obviously the flow rate of that fan just isn't keeping up. So that's something I'm going to have to address in the coming weeks, try and get on top of that, just so we can make this usable box with the higher CFM rates of the dual compressors. This is what I managed. Kind of rushed through it a little bit. I should have done more on the edges and stuff, but I have to go back to my other job. I'll come back and have another go at this. One thing I did notice is the corrosion on this one, slightly different to everything else I've blasted in the past. It seems to be a little bit harder. May need a little bit more cut to get it off. So I've got something to try next week just to see how that goes and see whether it cleans this up initially. I may eventually go to use 2 cabinets, one with more of a cutting and cleaning blast, and the other one with more of a finishing blast to get that nice deep, like a dark grey luster. So that's where I'm at now. The compressors work really well together. A lot happier with that extra airflow, and in the long run I think I'll be able to make just the 2 compressors work. I'll be able to get them to balance out with the size of the nozzles. Another interesting thing was this being metal, it started rusting pretty much immediately, so I think for the metal parts that we'll be doing in these cabinets in the future, I'll try and track down some sort of rust inhibitor to go on the water. It looks alright, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's rust starting and it's not going to stop there. So I'll have another go next week. I've got a few things to tidy up on these blast cabinets, and I'm going to start building another one that's been in the works for a little while, and I just haven't really had a chance to get into it. So I'll start with that next week and hopefully have it finished within the week. We'll see how we go.